Hi, everyone. This is Matt Britton. I am the founder and CEO of Suzy, and I want to thank everyone for joining today's webinar, Turn Uncertainty into Insight and Act with Confidence. And hopefully everybody is acting with confidence in these crazy times. I know right now there is a lot of uncertainty that's happening in the economy with the consumer. From where I sit, I'm definitely seeing a lot of consumer weakness. And there's a lot of indicators behind that. Obviously, you have a very low consumer confidence score right now. You have ballooning consumer credit card debt, as well as delinquencies on home and auto payments. So the consumer is definitely feeling crunched. At the same time, unemployment still remains fairly low. And, a lot of companies are still reporting fairly good earnings. So it's still one of these situations like we've seen so many times post-COVID where depending upon what lens you look at the world, you're either optimistic or pessimistic. And regardless, change is occurring faster than ever we've seen before. As many of you on this call know, I've spent the majority of my last 12 to 18 months building in AI for our business, as well as writing a book called Generation AI, which just came out last week. So if you haven't gotten a copy, let us know and we'll send you a copy. But through the process of researching the book, it really kind of opened my eyes up personally in terms of the shifting landscape we're about to be entering into. And I think, this AI revolution is going to make a lot of us rethink our place as parents in the workforce and really in society at large. And for a consumer insights professional, I think it's more important than ever before really to do the work, really to have your finger on the pulse of the consumer. And we've been working nonstop at Suzy over the last 6 to 12 months to really help redefine our business, because I think every business really needs to look inward in these times based on all the AI disruption we're seeing, and really question their place in the world and make sure that they're aligned in terms of providing a product or service that's in line with tomorrow's consumer and not just necessarily trying to optimize a product for yesterday's world. And obviously, it's the classic innovator's dilemma, right? Because us, just like everyone else, have customers that want a better product based upon the needs of yesterday. But at the same time, we're trying to balance that with being a real innovator. And I think Suzy has consistently been an innovator in the consumer insights market research space, and we intend to be that moving forward. But in order to do so, we have to have a point of view of where the world is headed. And we certainly have that. So today I'm going to walk through just a high-level product update in terms of where we're at with Suzy, what we're focused on, and I have some really great special guests today that I'll be introducing as well. So without further ado, I'm going to dive in. So Suzy is a company that really exists to amplify the voice of consumer. And right now, the consumer voice, I believe, is more valuable than ever before. In the market research space, there's a lot of chatter about things like synthetic audience, which, to kind of clarify who those who don't know, is essentially voices or panelists that replicate or mimic the voice of the consumer. And I do think there are certain use cases where that will be increasingly valuable over time. However, AI has never tasted a steak. AI has never fallen in love. AI has never broken their leg. AI doesn't know what it feels like to be envious of their neighbors. There are certain emotions that we have as humans that make us uniquely human. It's those same emotions that make people spend $6,000 on a handbag. And I don't think anytime soon AI-powered feedback is going to be able to truly replicate that, especially in a world where the headlines change from day to day and consumers are reacting to all the signals and input that they have at any given moment, which is very much forward-looking, where a lot of synthetic data has the risk of being backward-looking. So while it's definitely something that we're going to continue to look into, we think Suzy's unique benefit is really bringing the consumer and championing the consumer at the center of business decisions. And that's something that we are more focused on than ever before, making sure that we can bring the consumer to life in unique and interesting ways to allow you to uncover differentiated insights that really allow you to continue to drive growth and success for every business that you're working on. And it really goes both ways in terms of putting the consumer at the center. On one hand, it's about human-like consumer engagement. During this presentation today, you're going to hear a lot about us talk about our newest product, Suzy Speaks. And what Suzy Speaks does that I think is really interesting and what makes it super successful is it mimics real life human behavior when it comes to consumers giving feedback on brands. If you think about it, if you asked a friend how their trip was to Hawaii, they probably wouldn't fill out a 20-question survey about it, right? They would tell you, and they would emote their feelings, both with words and the way that they're gesturing. And based upon that, you would know if they had a great trip or not. You would know if that's somewhere you want to go to. You would know why they loved Hawaii or why they didn't. And ultimately, that's how we are wired. We are wired to speak and emote our feedback. We are not wired to fill out 20-question surveys. And as a result, we've seen a lot of issues in the market research industry abroad with, research fraud and completion rates. And the reality is that the new consumer, the consumer that's grown up with the internet and the mobile device in the household, is spending all their time in media built for the flip with a very low attention span. And because that is the case, we really need to lower the friction for them to want to give true consumer feedback. And we think the way to do it is by mimicking human behavior. You're going to see that play out through Suzy Speaks. The other way that we really want to put the heart in a robot, so to speak, is through human-centric decision-making. What does that mean? It means if you're the recipient of feedback, you usually want to hear what people say in whatever language you speak in. You want to be able to talk to the data. You want to be able to interact with data the way that you interact with other people, because that's what humanizes and contextualizes it the right way. We've been through a big era of big data and data analytics where you've had these complex dashboards with graphs and charts and all these sophisticated methodologies. But the reality is the output of all those sophisticated methodologies is just a story. It's just a decision that allows you to move forward with confidence. We really want to help our customers get to that point sooner, get to the point where they can interact with the data on a more human level, where they can talk to the data and really understand what it means without having to spend too much time with knobs and dials. So on both sides, whether it's how we're interacting with the consumer to extract feedback or how we're delivering that data, which is the aggregation of consumer feedback to you, we want to humanize it, because what AI is really doing is allowing technology to become far more approachable and far more human-like. And we want to bring that to both our panelists and you as the customer, and really lean into the technology and the robots in the middle, which is where all the methodology and analysis takes place. And if you think about it, it is kind of the complete opposite how the market research industry has reacted over the last 20 years, where most of the technical focus has actually been in the middle. It's been in the data analysis. It's been in the methodologies. Well, right now, we're focusing more on the outside. The innovation is how we interact with consumers and how we deliver the data to you. And that's going to be a lot of what you're going to be hearing from us today. So how are we going to do that? Well, we want to deploy relentlessly simple ways to collect human feedback anywhere and everywhere. We want to lower the boundaries for consumers to jump in and tell us what they really feel and think. The harder we make it, the more friction we add, the less likely we're going to be able to hear from the consumers that matter. And I think us as a research industry have gotten too far away from true consumer experience. We tout it and we say we're focused on it so we can unlock it for our consumers, yet the consumers that we're listening to get feedback, we may jump through a ton of hoops and answering surveys that most consumers really don't want to answer. So we need to evolve past that. And AI really allows us to do that. So that's one thing you're really going to see us focused on in the quarters ahead. We also are re-engineering for Suzy to become an open, more dynamic ecosystem that's really focused on data interoperability. And what I mean by that is, to date, Suzy has been mostly a walled garden. We've had our own research tool and our own panel, and it's been quite closed loop. But over time, starting with the first product I'm going to talk about in a second, we have really worked on ways to connect Suzy to the broader world. So we can tap into third-party panels, and more importantly, can tap into third-party data sources to enrich whatever feedback we've gotten from consumers to give you a broader worldview. So expect Suzy to continue to go down the path of being more of an insights platform that's connecting to many third-party tools, both to allow you to enrich your data and also to be involved in your workflow. We know that you have so many different tools you're working on every single day, and you're in Slack, and you're in Salesforce, and you're in HubSpot, and you're in all these different tools. We are going to start to offer ways where Suzy's research, Suzy's insights can live in the places where you already work, making your lives easier, and frankly, making it much easier for you to collaborate with your other colleagues on whatever you've used Suzy to uncover. And again, we really want to focus on decoding those natural human communications. What AI can do right now in terms of its ability to be able to transcribe discussions and be able to pull key insights from the transcripts of human voice and essentially extract the information that in the past we would have needed surveys to do is kind of mind-blowing. And the reality is, and I often say this on stage when I talk about AI, today is the worst it will ever be. It's only going to become so much better moving forward. So we really are focused as a business on decoding those natural human communications into AI-powered data. That's a huge focus of ours, and that's coming out in a lot of the product innovations we're going to be talking about today. So as you all know, the world's really moving so fast, and AI really is a proxy for it. I recently saw a data point that the power and potency of AI is doubling every 7 months. And so many people may have tried AI maybe a year ago and written it off in terms of its inability to do certain things. But the reality is that was really just in its infancy. And even though AI is still in its infancy, it's so much more infinitely powerful today than it was just 7 months ago. And with the growth of AI comes an evolving consumer. It comes a consumer that has different behaviors. We just saw for the first time ever search inquiries on Google within the iPhone ecosystem dropped for the first time in 22 years. That signals a major shift in consumer behavior. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the different ways consumers are going to behave and interact with products and services moving forward. And as a result, we really need to do a better job connecting the dots for you. Connecting the dots between your brand, your consumer, the economy, and their cultural landscape. And that's really driven a lot of the product innovations we're going to be talking about. So the first product innovation I'm really excited to talk about today is called Suzy Signals. And I'm going to dive into it and then kind of unpack why we think it's important. So, Suzy Signals is based upon the theory that everything that you do at your company, every decision your company makes, is based on some type of externality. If you decide that you want to have new packaging for a product, it's because you're hearing from consumers that the current product may not be working for them, or you're hearing from your retailers that they need a different makeup of your packaging. Same with your advertising, same with any concept. If you feel the need to innovate, it could be because a current product that you're selling isn't selling as well. If you want to jump on a new business opportunity, it's because you're hearing that there's demand in that new business opportunity. Ultimately, every business decision emanates from a signal. And that signal usually is what's happening in the outside world. It doesn't just come up instantly from an exec at your company. There are things that are slowly happening in culture, in society, that bubble up to one day somebody saying something like, we need to focus more on sustainable products. This is what our Gen Z consumer wants. And I read this article, and because of that, we're going to go in this direction. The issue with the signals coming from the outside world is often you don't really know which signals to listen to. And deciphering the signals from all the noise isn't really easy. So what we tried to do with Suzy Signals is do some of that work for you, to allow you, without really having to do much work at all, to connect the information that you're learning through your Suzy research with the world around you. So what Suzy Signals is, it's a decision engine that ultimately allows you to make more informed decisions by correlating the information that you uncover with your Suzy research with a broader world view. So you're going to be running a ton of research on Suzy, and you're going to be getting the results from the audience that you're speaking to. But what else does that mean? What other information or what other research has been conducted within either your category or elsewhere where something that you're uncovering could mean something more, right? So if you're finding that consumers are super focused on price with your product, does that mean that they're focused on price with all products or within just your category? If you're finding that consumers are gravitating towards a type of food that you might be thinking about rolling out that's spicy, is spicy food something that consumers are gravitating towards in food and beverage in its entirety? Or is it limited to just your category? Is it just a category trend? So we want to help you correlate whatever it is that you've uncovered with the movements and trends with the world around you, essentially turning consumer research into real-time relevance. And we think that this is a really interesting innovation in the market research space. If you think about it, for a long time, there has been syndicated research where you'll be hiring a company that will be conducting research on the beauty space or on a broader industry, and you're going to be correlating that in your minds with whatever first-party research you're doing. But the ability to connect both together and connect both together in real time, again, really gives you a broader worldview and allows you to make those decisions with far more context than ever before. The way Signals works is it's leveraging a partnership that Suzy has with OpenAI, which is, of course, the company behind ChatGPT. Suzy was one of the very first companies to construct an enterprise relationship with OpenAI. And since that point, we've been working closely with them, as well as our engineers, to build an algorithm that essentially can take whatever it is you're doing research on and instantly crawl through trillions of data points and surface up third-party research that correlates or in sometimes conflicts with information you're getting. It could be that you are getting research based on a certain topic, but we are seeing a lot of third-party research that challenges that notion. In that case, we're going to show you it as well. We don't want Signals to just be an echo chamber. Again, we want it to be an eye-opener for you. And if that means we're seeing research that contradicts what you've uncovered, well, Signals will show that as well. Signals crawls through thousands of verified third-party research sources, and it will instantly correlate what it knows about those third-party findings with whatever it is that you've uncovered through your Suzy research, really allowing you to go from noise to true signal and do so fast. Right now, Signals is in version 1.0. It's early days, it's in beta, and it's already in your inboxes. You've probably noticed over the last couple of weeks, emails coming in to your inbox as soon as your Suzy study has commenced. It essentially allows you to instantly see what some of those third-party sources are and what it means for you. Here's an example of a Suzy Signal email where you can see it'll give you a high-level overview. It'll tell you what we learned. And of course, on the right-hand side, what you see here is some separate studies. And they're all sourced, and it lets you know, is your findings reinforced? Are your findings contradicting what we're seeing in the marketplace and what it means? Your Suzy Signals emails are very much the tip of the iceberg on where we're going to be evolving this product over the weeks and months ahead. We are going to be able to create really interesting modalities where we can create incredible stories that not only bring your Suzy research to life in new and different ways, but again, also give you the context of the full world view of other research that is incredibly powerful, that might broaden or change or distill the insights that you're able to extract from your first party research on Suzy. So we're really excited about it. Again, this is just the very beginning, and it very much should show you how we're thinking about Suzy as a platform and as a curator to help you make the best possible decisions to grow your business. I'm excited right now to turn it over to my colleague, Laima Widmer, who's going to be talking a little bit about some of the other product innovations that we have in store today.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. I can take it from here. Acting with confidence in the face of uncertainty. Really, what better way to do that than understand how people actually feel? As Matt talked about earlier, how do you capture their sentiment, how they emote in their own words in real time? And that's where Suzy Speaks comes in. I'm Laima Widmer, and I am the SVP of a newly formed division here at Suzy called Conversational Insights. I've been in the insights industry for 30 years and have spent my career chasing a very specific dream, looking for a solution that could finally bridge the gap between quant and qual, one that brings depth and empathy, but also scale, speed, reliability, and economically for clients. And that's exactly what we built. Suzy Speaks is an AI moderated platform. And as an example, we default to setting up projects to conduct 100 in-depth interviews, anywhere in length from 5 minutes, 30 minutes. A few of them are pushing boundaries at 40 in just a few days. Think about that for a second. Really think about that. Traditional IDIs or focus groups are incredibly rich, but they take a lot of time. They take a lot of budget and coordination between clients, moderators, participants, and you often end up with incredible depth, but on a very small scale. With Suzy Speaks, where we've automated the moderation in a way that still feels very human, conversational, responsive, even empathetic. It's like having a skilled moderator running high-quality IDIs at scale, day or night, without the bottlenecks. And I want to be clear, Suzy Speaks isn't something built in isolation by engineers or product teams guessing at what researchers need. It's been shaped by people who've lived inside every part of this industry, client side, agency side, quant, and qual. We've tested it, we've refined it, and we've seen the results firsthand. This isn't wishful thinking. The numbers back it up. With Suzy Speaks, we're seeing 5 times more data per participant, 4 times more words per open end, and 40% more emergent themes, all with an 85% faster turnaround than traditional qual. It's that kind of impact that used to be out of reach for all but the biggest budgets and longest timelines. So how did we get there? Very intentionally. Over the past year, we've been pressure testing this platform, not just in theory, but in the real world, with researchers, with respondents, and with real business questions. We've been optimizing across 4 key areas. If you look at the first purple arrow, rigor and execution, we've tested everything: interview length, modality, best practice language, even tone. This is not a black box. It's designed with the same care and scrutiny we'd apply to any project, qual or quant. The second arrow, client collaboration. We've had the privilege of working closely with 9 private beta clients across a range of categories and objectives. They helped us shape the functionality, the output, and the integration into live workflows. The pink arrow, the third one, this one is really important. We actually wanted to bring respondents into the conversation. We've brought in our CrowdTap panelists post executing a project, talked to them about it, gathered feedback after each round. We learned what makes the experiences feel natural, what feels robotic and we should do less of, and how to make it better. Our respondents have helped co-create this experience. And they're going to continue to do that as we progress. And as Matt mentioned, with the evolution of AI, changing and doubling every 7 months, we are going to have to continue to talk to our respondents about what things are working as AI continues to unfold. The fourth arrow, which is a really important one for folks in the research community, is the rigor in analytics. This is where the magic happens. We've combined AI-led theme detection, human researcher interpretation, and Python-powered text analytics to capture both the manifest insights, what is said during the conversation, and the latent insights, what was really meant. This isn't just a feature, it's a rigorously built research capability that's been field tested, refined, and built with the same standards you'd expect from any high-quality research partner. A little bit more about what we've learned. What's emerged over the past year is the creation of what I think about as an entirely new kind of research space. We started this journey assuming that shorter interview lengths, if you go all the way to the left-hand side, we thought shorter interview lengths, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, would be ideal for respondents. We quickly learned that when the experience feels relevant, and rewarding, and it's designed in a way that is constructive in how you execute the discussion guide, people are willing to stay on with you. In fact, we've seen strong engagement even in 30, 40, 45-minute interviews. From a moderation standpoint, we've evolved from prescribed probing to trusting AI to do its job. It is a really good moderator, and it does it incredibly well. With the right discussion guide format and critically the context setting, the AI moderator adapts, pivots, and digs deeper like a skilled human moderator would. On the respondent experience side, we talked a little bit about that, but we have really heard time and again that the conversational format really just feels very natural and comfortable to them. It reduces friction, as Matt talked about, right? We want to reduce the friction so we can really get to those genuine human and true emotions and experiences. People talk like themselves. And when we sprinkle in or lightly pepper in a few multiple choice questions, it adds a fun, almost gamified layer that keeps respondents very engaged. And finally, you take a look at the research functionality in the tool, it's pretty remarkable. We can do branching logic, so we can target specific questions to specific cohorts or segments. We can expose all kinds of different stimuli with feedback, monadic, sequential monadic, testing, UX flows and journey mapping, and projective techniques. And this is one I really want to call out because I had been a little skeptical about the AI moderator's ability to really handle projective techniques. So being able to execute these at scale through this kind of format is pretty powerful. These kinds of techniques have really been traditionally limited to small scale human moderated qual, and now we're able to deploy it at scale consistently and without losing the depth. That's been one of the most exciting breakthroughs for me around Suzy Speaks. Taking a look, I should say, I get this question a lot, how good is the AI moderator really? And this slide is a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. Here's the answer. The truth is it's really good at its job. It's not just asking questions, it's listening and probing like a skilled human moderator. When it hears something vague like, it was frustrating, it doesn't stop there. It drills down and asks what specifically made it frustrating. And it's not just about digging deeper contextually based on what the respondent is saying. It also knows how to guide a reluctant respondent. The example on the left came from a projective exercise on brand personification. I was really nervous about testing this initially because, to do personification exercises in this kind of sort of quali-quant environment is a little difficult. And so interestingly, the respondent initially said, this is a dumb exercise. Brands don't have personalities. And he went on to say, they're all about making money. But the AI calmly reframed it as a creative, judgment-free way to explore brand perceptions. And that same respondent then went on to successfully personify all 7 insurance brands with real emotional nuance. The blend of psychological safety and real-time adaptation, that's where the magic is in the methodology. And for those of us who've worked on global teams, we know that scale introduces real complexity. That's why we're really excited to say that Suzy Speaks is going to be rolling out globally, aiming to achieve 40 plus languages with built-in translations and native audio support. This means we are able to get local nuance without adding weeks or mountains of cost. You'll be able to explore emotion, context, and culture across regions with the same speed and rigor you would expect from any domestic work. And I am now going to pass it on to Katie.
Laima, thank you so much. And hi, everyone. I'm Katie Gross, the president of Suzy. So all of the innovation that you've heard today from Matt and Laima really matters because it's built on top of a solid promise that you're able to make the right decision in the right timeline from the data. And ultimately, it comes down to trusting that you can move forward on the timeline that you need. And so I'm excited to introduce you to some changes and updates that we're making to our audience reach, speed, and quality to unlock being able to get to the exact audience that you need, move forward with this vast and flexible range of methodologies. And working with Suzy, where going forward, you won't have to compromise between speed, quality, or cost. So there are 4 key reasons why Suzy is the right partner. Number 1, we have brought together the brightest minds to deliver and continue to grow our expertise in key areas, meaning that we have experts and credentials to deliver. So some of the key experts that we've brought onto the team include in our Center of Excellence team, it's led by execs just like Laima and researchers with a lot of deep domain expertise and experience from a lot of the traditional market research agencies, the Kantar, Nielsen, Ipsos Training, and a lot more. And we also have a new dedicated team of sample sourcing experts. At Suzy, we have decades of experience from companies like Cint, Lucid, Dynata, and Toluna. And our most recent hire, Steve Ward, has joined us from GutCheck and MarketCast, where he led sample partnerships and operations. Our product team continues to grow as well and is now led by Grady Lino, who started his career back at Microsoft and has tons of expertise in building two-sided marketplaces at companies like GoPuff and Sendoso. And he has a real innovation-focused mindset, keeping customer-centric simplicity in mind. And our most recent leadership hire is Brian Erickson, our new CFO, who is also ex-Microsoft and ex-Amazon, bringing even more momentum and commitment to the strategic growth for Suzy. Our number 2 promise is that we are committed to speed and depth of insight through our expansion of panel sources. So Suzy has owned and operated its own panel CrowdTap, which we continue to optimize and grow. But I'm excited today to announce that we have also added additional sample supply sources integrated seamlessly into our platform, allowing us to help you collect and fill your wide audience research needs on the timeline that you need. So this is a proactive mechanism where we're going to be monitoring research, timelines, and tapping into that additional supply to get you where you need to go and enable you to gain your insights at the speed of culture. And second, on that depth of insight, we went through a very robust vetting process. As Matt mentioned, and as I have experienced over the past couple of years, the industry really had to adapt to AI-enabled bots and click farms. And so what we did through this vetting process was make sure that we are choosing partners that allow us not just that wide reach, niche audiences, and that, of course, match the behaviors of our CrowdTap panel, but, of course, those partners that have the highest quality measures in all of our vetting. Which brings me to promise number 3. Our leading quality tech stack delivers confidence in the results. So we proactively ensure that quality through our AI-enabled tech stack and innovative approach, Biotic, will be there for you no matter where the supply comes from. We layer on our proprietary quality tech stack, Biotic, through both the survey experience and remove those fraudulent results in the platform while still live in field before it hits your results. Biotic is continuously updated to always stay ahead of the latest LLM updates and pattern detection on a weekly basis. And promise number 4, this is all wrapped in a flexible partnership model, allowing you to move as fast as you need with the wide range of methodologies that you need, with as much Suzy team support as you need. Access to all of these methods and techniques that you need in the one insights platform to help you drive those business decisions from quantitative to qualitative, and now, as Laima introduced, conversational research. So I am now going to turn us over to our Q&A. All right, the first question that I'm happy to take on while Laima and Matt rejoin us here on stage. So given that Suzy now provides access to multiple panels, is the pricing model changing to a traditional pricing model? And I'm happy to say that no. Suzy has always and will continue to operate on a cost per question price model. I believe this is definitely the right way to price. Keep it simple for you, talk to the right customers with the right targeting without adding any complications on CPIs or incidence rates. Next up, I have a question that I'm going to address to Laima. So Laima, can you talk a little bit more about how Suzy Speaks is going to fit kind of alongside quant and more traditional qual, and how can it be used and benefit the kind of combination of the two?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm seeing a couple in the chat as well. I really do see this as sort of a third methodology, if you will. I always think there's going to be a need for human-led moderation qualitatively, and I also think there's always going to be a need for some level of quant, especially when you're talking about modeling and predictive techniques. I see this kind of sitting in the middle for a lot of use cases where a client wants some quant confidence, but really wants to get that qualitative depth. So the application across, foundational innovation testing comms is really pretty vast. And I think it is really up to what the client and the client's organization is really trying to glean from specific project execution.
Awesome. A lot of questions on Suzy Speaks for you, Laima. So the next one is, how are you making sure that these long-form verbal responses are not coming from AI?
Yeah,
AI.
It's a great question. A lot of our biotic settings are in place when we are screening people into a conversation off of CrowdTap. The other thing is we get to listen to all of the conversations. So we hear the conversation, and while AI is growing in sophistication, you can absolutely see and hear a real human behind those responses.
Yeah, that's great. Continuing on with a lot of Suzy Speaks questions, which is awesome to see. How do the AI moderators read those kind of critical non-verbal situations, since humans really kind of communicate about 70% of what we say, not through words or language?
Yeah, so that is a really, really good question. There's two ways to address that. It's sort of, what can AI do today, right? And so if you think about what it's reading and adapting to in this format, it is listening to intonation. It's listening to how you emote verbally. It is not yet or auditory, I should say, not yet reading verbal cues, but I will say not yet. And so I think that is going to be coming, and it's going to be coming a lot faster than we think.
Great.
Yeah, for sure. It's why I love that we have the option of Suzy Live with our human moderators as any kind of offset as well.
Yeah, I know that one of the things that's being tinkered with right now is, if you think about UX testing in this kind of format, if I am tasked to do something, go from point A to point B, right? We want to make sure that the moderator can see the journey you take and actually probe from those visual cues. That is really around the corner. It's not that far away. So it's coming.
Yeah. And do Suzy Speak sessions involve just groups, or are we individual only so far? And
Yeah, right now it is just IDIs. And I know that there's always some benefit to focus groups versus IDIs, and a lot of it is around, what you're trying to glean. If you're trying to do brainstorming sessions, things like that, having a group of people is always fantastic, but it's really just a way of thinking about it. You are able to iteratively brainstorm through IDIs as well, and to do that economically. So you're able to really capture some of the benefits that you get from focus groups. I think the thing that I would call out too is, like in a focus group, if you have, an hour-long focus group across 5 or 6 people, you are splitting that time by those 5 or 6 people. In a focused IDI format, all of that time is with that individual participant. So the amount of time you're actually spending per person is substantially higher.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Laima, I think, for stakeholders at companies, they're so used to seeing decks with charts and graphs. So I'd love to kind of hear, how have the stakeholders been receiving this new methodology as our clients and as you are presenting out to CMOs and so on?
Yeah, it's funny, and I know Matt probably has a very different perspective on this, but our clients still need those PowerPoint presentations, and so that is really the format that we're delivering in currently. I do think we are, as an industry, going to get to a point where we are delivering information in a completely different format, and ideally, I would like to get us to the place where there is, that sort of executive ready document that the researcher needs to pass on to its stakeholders, with the ability to be able to really organically play with your data. Because the truth is, a 30-minute conversation with 100 people is mind-blowing in terms of the amount of content that is available to mine and to harness and to really make sense of. So I think that there's a great opportunity to really see the best of both worlds.
Yeah, for sure. Even seeing some of the results from our tax research recently, tax could be a pretty dry topic, but I was amazed that when you actually hear the consumer versus when you see a chart about the consumer behavior, are wildly different kind of outcomes.
Yeah. And the emotionality of the fear that's layered into that we wouldn't have necessarily been able to glean from a quant study. It was powerful.
For sure, yeah. Another question that came in from the audience. So the bot traffic in screeners continues despite, of course, the industry's ongoing efforts and Suzy's tweaking of those recipes. So how are we going to be mitigating those besides optimization? So Daniel, I would like to address that by, we can have much, much stricter kind of checks on the front door, working with now our new panel partners so that we can focus on that wide reach while being really, really strict with the recipe at the front door. So it's going to be an ongoing battle. I've been in the sample industry since 2008, and I have seen the shifts and changes and the sophistication, but I can tell you that both Suzy and the Insights Association collectively are working on a number of key measures to make sure that we are keeping this industry as clean as possible. And I think voice activation, making it much harder for those bots, is definitely key. A question from Matt on Signals. So how do we widen out the audience? So right now, of course, a lot of our customers who are executing the research are the ones logging into the platform and getting those notifications. But how can we widen out the audience?
So I think that what's going to start to happen, and we've seen this at companies, is that although the broader audience at an organization, whether they own a P&L or they're a brand manager, aren't the ones necessarily always launching research, they are in need of having their finger on the pulse of the consumer. Right. And in the past, the way that it's been achieved, again, is through broader, syndicated research studies, and as well as the reporting that comes from the insights team once they, are conducting studies. But in terms of an ongoing sort of intravenous way for the rest of the organization to be in the know, there hasn't really been a customized way at scale to let an organization really understand what's going on with their consumer, what's going on with their category, et cetera. So we are working on ways in context with our customers in the insights teams to be able to roll out, feeds to people in the organization where it is that they work, whether it's in Slack or Teams or otherwise, of signals that we're seeing from the marketplace that are highly contextual to the research that the insights team is doing. So every day, people, throughout the organization will be able to understand what's most important to them, and they will no longer have to be left to their own devices to dig up that information. Because by nature of the research being done on Suzy, we have the right inputs needed to then search the broader world, cut through the noise, and bring the broader organization the things that they need to know about their consumer, about culture, about the economy on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so key for democratizing the research to just understand the cultural impact of what's happening.
Yeah.
So question on that also is, does Signals only aggregate the Suzy data, or what are those sources from across the web that we'll be tapping into?
Yeah, so in partnership with OpenAI, we have started to do a lot of work in figuring out, how sophisticated and frankly, how precise the algorithm can be at identifying third-party research sources that matter. And right now we have about 1,000 different research sources from verified third-party engines. It could be everything from traditional media sources like CNBC and the New York Times to other companies that are going deep and conducting research within a particular category. So, as you'll see in the emails that you're getting when you're launching research on Suzy, it is a variety of different sources. At the same time, we are open to working with our customers to hone that in even further. So if there's other sources that they want us to train the algorithm to look at for their particular brand, we can do so in a way that doesn't impact any of our other customers. So we definitely want to have this be a building phase with our customers and make sure that we're left with a product that's unlike any other product in the marketplace by leveraging signals that matter most to you.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is all of the questions from the audience. So thank you so much to everybody. We are here for you at any point. If you wanted to chat about sample sources and quality, if you want to talk about Suzy Speaks, we're here for you. And if you want to talk about signals and the future of market research, we're also here for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.